On a cold winter evening in Chicago, the diner on the corner of Madison Street buzzed softly with the tired sounds of the city winding down. Marcus Reed tied his apron tighter and moved between tables with practiced ease. As a black waiter who had worked in restaurants since he was 16, Marcus was used to long hours, aching feet, and smiling even when life felt heavy. Tips were never guaranteed, and bills waited for no one, but Marcus believed in one simple rule his mother had taught him: never ignore hunger, especially in a child's eyes. That night, near the back of the diner, Marcus noticed two boys sitting silently in a worn booth. They couldn't have been older than 10 and 12. Their clothes were clean but thin, and they kept glancing at the menu like it was a forbidden book. When Marcus approached, the older boy spoke politely, his voice barely above a whisper. "Sir, can we just get 2 glasses of water?" Marcus nodded, but something felt off. When he returned with the water, he saw the younger boy's hands shaking slightly as he drank. Marcus gently asked where their parents were. The older boy looked down. "We live at the Southside Children's Home," he said. "We came out with some friends, but they left. We don't have money for food." Marcus felt a familiar tightness in his chest. He remembered nights from his own childhood when his mother pretended she wasn't hungry so he could eat. Without saying a word, Marcus went back to the counter and placed an order: 2 hot meals, extra bread, and milk. He paid for it himself before anyone could argue. When the food arrived, the boys' eyes widened. They didn't rush. They ate carefully, like they wanted the moment to last. Marcus sat with them for a few minutes during his break. They told him their names, Daniel and Lucas, and talked about school, video games, and big dreams. Daniel wanted to become an engineer. Lucas said he wanted to build big companies and help kids like us. Before they left, Marcus packed extra food into paper bags and slipped them across the table. He wrote his phone number on a napkin and pushed it toward them. "If you ever need help," he said gently, "you call me. Don't be ashamed." The boys thanked him more times than he could count. As they walked out into the freezing night, Marcus watched until they disappeared around the corner. He didn't feel like a hero. To him, it was just what a human being should do. Life moved on. The diner closed a year later. Marcus bounced between jobs, faced setbacks, and kept working forward. Over time, the memory of 2 quiet boys in a diner became just another moment in a long line of nights filled with small kindnesses. Marcus never heard from Daniel or Lucas again, and he assumed he never would. But unknown to Marcus, that simple meal and a few encouraging words planted a seed that would quietly grow for 22 years, waiting for the day it would return to him in a way he could never imagine. 22 years passed like pages flipping in a quiet book. Marcus Reed's life never became extraordinary in the way movies promise, but it became honest. After years of working double shifts, saving carefully, and refusing to give up, he managed to become the general manager of a small but respected hotel in downtown Chicago. The job paid steadily, and more importantly, it gave Marcus dignity. He knew every employee by name, helped new hires settle in, and still believed kindness was a form of strength. One crisp autumn morning, Marcus stood at the front desk reviewing schedules when the doorman hurried inside, eyes wide with confusion. "Sir," he said, lowering his voice, "there's a Rolls-Royce outside. They asked for you, by name." Marcus frowned. Luxury cars passed the hotel sometimes, but not like this, polished. Black, flawless, demanding attention just by existing. Curious guests pressed their faces to the glass as Marcus stepped outside. 2 men were standing beside the car, both dressed sharply in tailored suits. They looked confident, successful, but something about their smiles felt familiar. As Marcus approached, the taller man stepped forward, his voice steady but emotional. "Mr. Reed," he said, "you probably don't recognize us." Marcus studied their faces. Then his heart skipped. The eyes, the expressions. Time had added height, confidence, and years, but not erased recognition. "Daniel," Marcus asked slowly. "Lucas." Both men smiled wide, and suddenly they weren't executives anymore. They were 2 boys sitting in a diner booth with water glasses shaking in their hands. Daniel explained how that night had changed everything. The meal gave them more than full stomachs, it gave them hope. Marcus's words stayed with them through foster homes, scholarships, failures, and victories. When they struggled, they remembered the stranger who believed in them for no reason. Lucas spoke next. He talked about building a tech logistics company from nothing, about Daniel becoming a structural engineer, and about a promise they made to each other, to find Marcus one day and say thank you properly. "We searched for years," Lucas said. "All we had was your name and that memory." Then Daniel handed Marcus a small envelope. Inside was a set of keys and a note that read, "For the man who fed us when we were invisible." The Rolls-Royce wasn't about showing wealth, it was about honoring kindness that outlives money. Marcus felt his vision blur. He tried to refuse, but they insisted. "This isn't a payment," Daniel said softly. "It's proof that what you did mattered." As guests and staff watched, Marcus hugged them both. In that moment, he understood a truth the world often forgets: kindness doesn't disappear. It waits, it grows, and sometimes, after decades of silence, it finds its way back, bigger than anyone expects. The days after the Rolls-Royce appeared felt unreal to Marcus Reed, like he had stepped into someone else's life. News of the moment spread quickly, first among hotel staff, then guests, and soon local media. People called it a miracle, a fairy tale, a viral story of karma. Marcus quietly returned to work, still wearing the same modest suits, still greeting guests with the same warmth. The car sat in the parking lot like a symbol, but Marcus knew the real gift wasn't metal or leather, it was knowing his kindness had truly mattered. Daniel and Lucas didn't disappear after that day. They invited Marcus to coffee, then dinner, wanting to hear his life story the way he had once listened to theirs. Marcus spoke honestly, about missed chances, about financial struggles, about nights he'd questioned whether doing good even made a difference. The brothers listened carefully, respect clear in their eyes. Weeks later, they returned with another proposal. They were launching a foundation focused on feeding homeless children and supporting kids in foster care across Illinois. "We want you to lead it," Lucas said. Marcus was stunned. He had never seen himself as a leader outside his job. But Daniel reminded him gently, "You already changed lives without knowing it. Now imagine doing it on purpose every day." After much thought, Marcus agreed, but only if the foundation focused on dignity, not pity. No cameras at food lines. No shame. Just opportunity, mentoring, and support. The brothers agreed instantly. The first program opened near the same neighborhood where the diner once stood. Kids came for meals, tutoring, and hope. Marcus made it a rule to sit with at least one child every afternoon. He saw himself in them. Quiet courage, buried dreams, waiting for someone to notice. One evening, after the center closed, Marcus stood outside watching the city lights flicker on. Daniel joined him. "You know," Daniel said, "you never asked us for anything back then." Marcus smiled softly. "Help given with expectations isn't help," he replied. "It's a deal." Years later, Marcus sometimes drove the Rolls-Royce, not to impress, but to remember where the journey began. Most days, he preferred walking through the center, greeting kids by name, reminding them they mattered. The story didn't end with a luxury car or headlines. It ended with meals served, futures changed, and a quiet truth proven again and again. One small act of kindness, done with sincerity, can echo longer than a lifetime. And every time Marcus saw a hungry child become a hopeful one, he knew, some debts aren't repaid with money. They're repaid by passing kindness forward.